I think a much more troubling result of this election was the ballot initiative in Arkansas. I was speaking with some gay friends of mine, and this was a ballot initiative that basically forbade, or now forbids by law, single people from adopting children in Arkansas. So that you have to be married in a traditional marriage in order to be able to adopt children. And this was something that for me was very troubling. It was troubling for a host of reasons. One is the energy, as I mentioned before, the energy behind the passage of this ballot initiative by pro-family groups and conservative groups in Arkansas used this equation of homosexuality and pedophilia to drive people to the polls to vote in favor of denying single people, and that means gay and lesbian people, because gay and lesbian people can't be, by law in Arkansas, part of a traditional marriage. And so it effectively denies them the right to adopt children. So that any gay or lesbian person in the state of Arkansas has now been denied the right to adopt and raise children. And these include foster children who are languishing in foster homes. You can imagine what the state of foster care must be in a depressed state like Arkansas. It's not good in any state. It certainly, I'm sure, is not very good in Arkansas either. And this, to me, is a very troubling step backwards. It brings up all of those kind of historic stigmas that we're still dealing with and fighting against in the LGBT community. So for me, that ballot initiative in Arkansas was far more insidious and far more, for me, a sign that we have not made enough progress and that we may, in fact, be taking a step backward than the Prop 8 vote. Because at the end of the day, the Prop 8 vote was, the gay marriage resolution was closer this time around than it had been previously in California. There's been movement in the direction of progress on the issue of marriage. The issue of marriage is a very sticky one. I personally, though I relish my right to get married to my partner if I so choose in Massachusetts, and looks like that's also going to happen in New York very soon. It certainly happened all throughout New England, with the exception of Rhode Island. And, I relish that right. I'm happy to have it. I'm grateful to the people who have struggled to earn that right in the states where we've earned it. But I don't think that the marriage issue strategically is the best thing to put at the forefront of our movement. And I think there has been, among some leaders in the LGBT movement, an overemphasis on marriage. And I think that is, there are two problems with that. One is that marriage is the most sacred of institutions, right? I mean, culturally speaking, in the public imagination, most people, despite the fact that we have a 50% divorce rate among straight married couples, we raise marriage to a sort of pedestal that we don't raise any other kind of relationship to. And I think that there are a lot of reasons for that historically. But when you seek to become kind of fully integrated and have the full rights of marriage, you're going to, it's like kicking a bee's nest or kicking a hornet's nest. And that's what the LGBT community has done. That's not to say that you shouldn't kick hornet's nests. I think that, we wouldn't be none of us would be anywhere if we didn't kick a few hornet's nests. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that when you kick a hornet's nest, they're going to be hornets, right? And you're going to get stung. And I sound like a Southerner right now. I feel like we should be on a porch somewhere drinking, mint juleps. But at the end of the day, we're going to get stung, and we have been stung, and we've been stung in California. We haven't been stung elsewhere. But at the end of the day, not to beat the metaphor to death too much, at the end of the day, I think that we have asked for a fight that we have now gotten. Right? And some of us are upset that fight has resulted in some punches and some black eyes. And California is one of them. And the other piece of it for me, and so I think strategically, marriage might not be the only fight we want to have. I think we want to pick some fights that we know we can win so that we can store up some energy for the big fights, right? And marriage is definitely a big fight. The other piece of this is that within the LGBT community, marriage is not, I would argue, the most important issue for the broadest range of LGBT people. There are a lot of folks, employment non-discrimination is more important than marriage. For a lot of folks, adoption rights are more important than marriage. For a lot of folks, universal health care is more important than marriage. For a lot of folks, there are a lot of things that are more important than marriage. And I think by focusing or overemphasizing marriage as the sort of, gem in the crown of gay rights or LGBT rights, we are alienating a broad swath of folks within our community, right? Homeless trans youth are not principally interested in getting married. They're more interested in making sure that they're protected against, all sorts of street violence and all sorts of discrimination and so forth. There are folks in communities of color and in poor communities all over the country for whom marriage is something that, middle-class white people who live in the suburb want. And so I do think that by overemphasizing marriage and by fixating on Prop 8, we do more to break the bonds that we should be strengthening in our community. I don't think that marriage is a winning issue when one of our goals is to create as broad and multicultural and multi-class an LGBT community moving forward politically and socially.